you that don't know, I've spent the last year working on a culinary program called Raising the Bar. And it's designed to be a gateway for culinarians to meet up with information, resources, and tools to help overcome challenges. So this is my business, this is my baby, this is my brainchild, and that's part of how I'm able to do these webinars. Is in building this material, I recognize that there's different gaps of knowledge and different gaps of exposure, depending on where you are in the industry. For executive chefs, it's really difficult to get out of the kitchen and get into somebody else's kitchen to brush up skills or to evolve. And for a lot of people who want to compete at higher levels or work on taking the Master Chef exam or even taking a CEC exam, exposure and access to other chefs who've done that while doing the day-to-day job have a significant number of challenges. So recognizing that the industry is really, there's a big gap in between what's needed and what exists, I decided to spend quite a bit of time and work on some programs and some resources to share that information. I think it's terrible that we have a giant generation of chefs who have all this knowledge and really don't really have the platform or don't really take advantage of the opportunity to share so much of what they know. So that's what this is all about. It's an opportunity to dive into things that that I've learned the hard way over the years in order to be successful in all of my endeavors. Legit Concepts is my company, and this is all about making the most of 2021. We're going to dive into setting yourself up for success. And I'm going to spend about an hour talking about this and give you some tools that I use and dive into as much material as humanly possible. Everybody, I just want to confirm, if you could just confirm in the chat, everybody can see the slideshow that says who I am. I've gone through entire presentations before not realizing that I have failed to properly link the screen. So I'd like to avoid that. So who I am, I'm the founder of Legit Concepts, and my company exists to improve the quality of chefs' lives and the lives of culinary professionals and the lives of their teams. For those of you that don't know much about me, just a real brief, I've spent the last 25 years of my career working on being a master craftsman in the craft of cooking. And I fully believe in the path of craftsmanship, and I love the career that I've had. I think hospitality is truly one of the, especially now, is probably one of the most undervalued industries, especially in this day and age. I think hospitality is more pertinent now than it's ever been. I am a competitor. I'm organized and intense. I'm a filmmaker. Actually, this is something that has taken up quite a bit of my time and has really come to fruition while I've been working through this crazy last year. I'm a husband, and I have a dog that really ties up my life. And I would say that I'm really bad at balance. I am an entrepreneur above all, and I think that I prefer that as a title because it kind of explains that I have 1,000,001 hats that I wear, and I'm good with that. As chefs, I think we all get used to that. I think that's something that we all do on a regular basis, is wear different hats and try and figure out how we fit in. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure which one it is, there's no real guidebook for that, but there's always opportunity to improve. And that's why we're here. I want to talk through some of the things that I've done and some of the discoveries that I've had over the years to help nudge me in the right direction. Getting the most from this webinar, make sure you focus, right? If you haven't already, turn your devices on Do Not Disturb. I always make sure to put my phone there. It's actually something I do in the office when I call a cook in or a sous chef, and I ask them to, put their phone on do not disturb, and I do the same thing so that we can focus and have a solid meeting. It's really annoying when you're trying to have a meaningful conversation and you're constantly being distracted. It's even more pertinent in the day and age that we're in now, that everybody's so used to being distracted and focus is so limited. It's hard to get this implemented into the kitchen, but it's at least worth a try. And I think if you can start it in your office and you can start showing people the value of focus and the value of giving people 100% of your time, you will definitely find a return on that. I always like to make some space to be uninterrupted. If you hold the space sacred, it becomes sacred. So when the office door is closed, most people understand that, I'm in the middle of something. Obviously, with responsibilities, there's always that gray area when people can join or knock or come in. But for the most part, I try and make sure that, I'm as uninterrupted as possible. And when you want to take away, as much as you can from, say, a reading habit or something like that, just finding 15 or 20 minutes of uninterrupted time, you'll take that knowledge and that information far more effectively and actually give better time, energy, and focus to the people who need it when they need it. Take notes. Have your Mies, have a pen, have a notepad, and then use the chat box. Ask questions, engage if there's an opportunity to engage. I encourage you. And then if you have anything that you see or that's presented that doesn't make any sense to you, please, by all means, ask for clarification. I will be monitoring the chat from time to time, and I will do everything I can to clarify a point while I'm there. If you think of a question while I'm going through something, feel free to type it into the chat, and then at the end, I'll start off with those questions. The path to self-awareness. There's a lot of people that talk about this nowadays, but I think knowing yourself is really the key to reaching your full potential. To know where you are, and you need to know where you are. I'm sorry, you must know where you are and where you want to be. There's obviously so much that could be said for where you want to go and how you're going to get there. But knowing exactly where you are and being able to be honest with yourself and be honest with your team becomes so critical in knowing how you're going to grow them and where you're going to go as a collective. So in order to answer those questions of who you are, right? Do you have a sense of direction? Questions that you should ask yourself. And these are actually questions that I take time and ask my team and interact with my team on. In order to grow yourself, you need to know your strengths. You need to know your weaknesses. You should know your interests, and you should know your opportunities. And opportunities, I think, are, it's a multifaceted point, right? Opportunities for growth, opportunities for your career, and opportunities for change. What are the opportunities that are really in front of you, and are they worth your time? Questions that you're going to need to answer in order to get down to the root of who you are is, what do you like to do? What do you like to do? I, from time to time, talk to cooks, especially young cooks who don't like to cook. Okay, well, that makes sense. It makes it challenging, of course. But if you don't like to do what you're doing, or if people, your team, don't like to do what they're doing, you're not going to get very far. And especially in an industry that's as challenging as it is. What are your talents and your skills? This is where it becomes very relevant to be honest. This is one of the areas that I like to start with, especially when I start a new coaching relationship, with self-assessment. I think it's really important to dive into where you think your talents and skills are on a scale, and then kind of pick that apart and start to understand where you are versus where you are in the marketplace. Once you understand that, you understand where your shortcomings are, and you can understand what you need in order to progress and to evolve to the next level. Do your talents and your skills support your desire? It seems like an obvious question, but it's something that's not asked very often. This is another great question for the office when I'm trying to figure out a sous chef's intent. when I'm trying to figure out what it is that they want to do and where they want to go, understanding that they may not have the talents or the skill set in order to get to where they want to go can be powerful leverage and a powerful motivator to teach them and to get them to learn the things that you need them to know. What are your motives? What are your motives for you as far as your career, from your family standpoint? What are your action steps? What advice can you get along the way? Mentors, coaches, teachers, they're all there as useful, helpful tools along the way, along with peers. What price are you willing to pay? And that's a price in time. You know, I had a great conversation earlier today, and one of the things that I know as a mantra, and I keep it in my heart, but I was reminded through this conversation, was everything comes at a price. Especially as you get older, everything you choose to do costs something else. Time can only be split so many different ways. And what you're doing is going to keep you from doing something else. And then what will it cost in time, in real time, from work, from your family? It's really important to be specific about that. What resources will you require? Is it money? Is it equipment? Is it gear? This is a very, generalized statement, but I can say that when I was getting ready to take the MasterChef exam, I completely underestimated the resource of equipment that my facility was able to provide, and it, in the end, saved me quite a bit of money being able to borrow equipment and bring it back. What resources are available, and what resources do you need? And then, where do you need to grow the most? In order to get where you want to go, sometimes you have to, look at the big bites and figure out what the biggest gap is so that you can start working on it. So overcoming personal shortcomings is really not an easy process. You're going to have to get uncomfortable with it. And I think the more uncomfortable you get with it, the sooner you'll be comfortable with the fact that you're dealing with something that's quite uncomfortable. This is one of the reasons why I think competition is actually quite useful for life skills, because it helps you get comfortable being completely uncomfortable. Take the time to self-assess. You got to ask for honest feedback, and these are the things that will make you uncomfortable, because honest feedback may not be the nicest to hear. And in all honesty, if it's useful feedback, it probably won't be the easiest to hear. This is where connecting with a coach, connecting with a mentor, or connecting with a trainer can really make a big difference. People that you develop a professional relationship with in order to fill in your shortcomings, in order to teach you what you need in order to overcome your shortcomings. So what is a mentor? I think a mentor, a trainer, and a coach, those terms get tossed around quite a bit and they overlap quite a bit. But a mentor is somebody that is where you want to be. And and then they show it to you. Like, you can see where they are. You can see where they've gotten to because they've achieved it. And they can really share with you little tidbits along the path, and they can show you parts of the way. They may not be the greatest trainer or teacher, and they may not be the best coach, but there's somebody who is where you want to be. The trainer or the teacher teaches you what you need to know in order to get where you want to go. And they're very task specific. They're usually very good at maybe particular skills or all the skills that you're looking for in order to get along the way. They may not necessarily have already achieved the task, but they can definitely teach the know-how and what you may need to do it. Good example. Again, I'll use the trying out for, as I was going for the MasterChef exam, I had a mentor who had passed the test, and then I was working with some teachers. I was actually connecting with teachers to dive back into culinary fundamentals. were able to really dive through some of the fundamentals at a basic level. But then my mentor was able to help me kind of fill in the gap and understand the fundamentals at a much higher, at a master level. That was something that Master Chef Ken Arnone had spent a lot of time with me working on. And that's really where you can fill in a big gap in your shortcomings. Most shortcomings only exist because you don't really recognize that you're there. And that's the whole point, the awareness part. And then a coach is somebody who works with you on your mindset, your psychology. It's really important because above all, they have some combination of teacher, trainer, mentor, and understands fully the battle that you're undergoing in your head. And the big challenge for overcoming shortcomings is really overcoming your mind. It's overcoming your ego, and it's getting past the point where you're stopping yourself from progressing. And really that's where a coach, a professional coach, comes in handy. They're there to help you understand things that you don't already know how to understand. And there's no other way to put it than really just raise awareness in order to accept the changes that you're going to need to make in order to get better and to get to the level that you know you want to get to, and fill in the gap. So my first experience with a professional coach, I hired him just before I was actually taking the Master Chef exam. I went all in as I was trying to prepare, and I spent quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money at the time on trying to overcome my hurdles, on trying to work with the people that I needed to work with, and trying to deal with really the internal struggle. There's a lot of mental, what's the word I'm looking for? Mental acrobatics that take place while you're working on, larger goals, especially it doesn't matter if it's, taking the executive chef exam. When you're taking the CEC exam, you feel the rush, you're struggling, you are, in most cases, you're maxed out from a stress standpoint, from an understanding standpoint, in order to be successful at that exam. Well, as you graduate levels, those levels increase in intensity as well. And, there's a point when obviously you need a little help. And I think it's really important to recognize when you need help and utilize the help that's available. There's a lot of help available for any project, for the Master Chef exam, for trying out for the Culinary Olympic team, for trying to develop a program, for revising a menu. And in a lot of ways, coaches are there and beneficial because they offer you perspectives from outside of what you know and outside of your circle of influence. The other question that my coach asked me was, did you pay to go to school? And the answer, that the way that was handled with me, was after being out of school for 15 years, which was about the point when I was, conversation came up of, you're going to need to invest just like you paid for school in order to grow and get better at this next level. And it's really easy to forget about that. And so that, I can honestly say, was a huge component of my being successful the way that I was at the Master Chef exam and then trying out for the Culinary Olympic team, which, tend to be questions that I field pretty often. It's all about the support team. So often we have a limited time for opportunity and for growth. And so it just makes sense to maximize our time, our energy, and our resources in order to be successful. And, I always say, like, the cooks are lucky, but they have no idea. The cooks are lucky that they can work for the chefs that they work for, that they can be involved in these kitchens, these cultures, but they don't understand the environment that they're in. And I always encourage leaders, the leaders that I work with especially, to help your cooks understand the environment that they have and understand that they have an impact and understand that they're part of something. Because it's so often years later, people realize what they're missing out on and recognize, wow, I had it really good at that moment. The statement, "You don't know what you got until it's gone," is sad, but absolutely true. And, it's, I think, very critical to help people understand and recognize that they can really take a lot of joy from the moment that they're in, and they can take a lot of growth from the time that they're in, and take advantage of the growth that's around them because of the people that they work with. At some point, those people are going to move on and they won't be around them anymore. First step, I think, in dealing with self-awareness, not just accepting the gaps, not just understanding what the gaps are, but the first thing that's required in order to deal with it appropriately is discipline. Not the normal discipline, spanking, grounding, go sit in the corner, but the actual training of oneself to do something in a controlled and habitual way, self-discipline. I'm a huge proponent of discipline, and I think that most people would say that they are, except you can see how disciplined people are based on their actions and based on what they do in their kitchens. And the number one rule of discipline is doing what needs to be done when nobody else is looking. Disciplines like, the taking the little steps to get yourself set up, or I take vitamins morning and night, and taking the little steps to set yourself up with those to get yourself squared away, so that regardless of how busy you are, these disciplines are followed through on. Discipline is just like a standard. A standard doesn't bend for how busy it gets. A standard is there to maintain regardless of how busy it gets, or regardless of whatever chaos is going on in your life. And it's very easy to lose sight of that. 1 second. Chef Shalling. Yes, that is the rule of integrity, but I also think that it has a whole lot to do with discipline as well. I think having discipline allows you to have integrity. Just my 2 pennies. Thank you for the question. So I'm going to encourage you to be strict with yourself. Now, in order to be strict with yourself, you're going to want to form habits. And this is what has helped me out tremendously. Most everybody has heard of a habit, but for those of you who have, let's just do a revisit. Now, a habit is a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. Habits can be good and habits can be bad. Habits can be beneficial and habits can be tremendously negative. Everybody, I think, hears of habits in a negative sense, but a good habit is just as hard to break as a bad habit. For me, here's one of my habits, and this is definitely a great takeaway. These are little Amazon pods, and whenever I'm traveling, or specifically if I'm getting ready to take a test, or if I'm cooking a meal or a dinner, I learned this from working on the team, I pack my days by pods. So I've got a pair of socks, a pair of boxers, my t-shirt, I've got a neckerchief, and my 2 little snack bars in case I don't get a chance to eat. And each day that I'm where I'm going to go, or where I'm going to be, I have a pod. And I know that if I'm going to be there for 6 days, I have 8 pods, just because I make sure I always have 2 extra. It's a personal thing. But I have what I need. Now, this is very, this isn't even close to the whole packing list, but this is a habit of mine. And this habit has come to me and has been developed over the years. And this habit has helped me, it's proven to help me be successful. So positive habits, and that's one of mine. Think of this as nourishment, right? Positive habits nourish the mind, the body, the spirit, and the soul. And I think there's some basic principles that everybody could incorporate in their life and at least tweak or improve in any one of the areas. In order to nourish the mind, you have to exercise it. So what does exercising the mind look like to me? It's reading. Reading helps get your mind strengthened. Reading helps expand your mind, brings ideas to yourself. I work with a professional coach currently, And he actually recommends brushing your teeth in the morning with your offhand because it requires focus. It requires full mental engagement. And that's a great way to help build your focus. Building your focus builds your mind. And it's quite simple. If there's a task you need to do and you get right to do it, you're strengthening the muscle to choose to do it. If you're putting it off and you're putting it off and you're finding distractions and you're finding other things, that are not as important that you've determined and putting that in front of it, then you're strengthening your inability to complete a project. And sometimes it just requires little jolts and little things to shake up your mind. So exercise your mind in order to exercise your body. I mean, exercise is a pretty, it definitely fits into the body component. Stay active. It doesn't mean that if you've never been to a gym or you've never had a workout routine to have a whole workout routine or lift weights or do whatever that is, but stay active. Go for a walk. Incorporate a walk into your day. Find a way to keep your body moving. I can honestly say that at 40, I'm healthier than I was at 30, but I'm a lot sorer than I was at 30. My body hurts in different ways. And my chiropractor was very open and honest with me in saying, stay as flexible and as mobile as you can, as long as you can, because that is really the first thing that starts to really slow you down as you get older. When your ligaments start to get a little more brittle, when you're not exercising, when you're not moving your body, when you're not using the vessel that we have, it starts to break down a lot faster. And I plan on living, maybe not forever, but as long as humanly possible. In order to nourish the spirit, I highly encourage meditation and prayer. Actually, I don't see them as either or. I see them as a collective thing. I think meditation allows you an opportunity to kind of clear yourself out and to hear and listen to the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in order to kind of find your path, in order to clear the clutter, the nonsense of the everyday and kind of reset yourself. And then I think prayer is such a key component for gratitude, for really showing, believing, and nurturing your spirit in a way that allows you to feel fulfilled. And I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but it's a way that helps me feel fulfilled in my spirit. And then from a soul perspective, because I think at times we end our days or we start a day without completely feeling like we hit a reset, I highly recommend journaling as an exercise to nourish your soul. It's a great way to say things that you really don't want to say to people, but you still need to get out of your being. It's a great way of, building conversations that you need to have. It's a great preparation in order to address some things that need to be addressed. A lot of people don't journal. There's a lot of people who say they do journal, and there's no one right way to journal. There's guides on Amazon, and there's many prompt journals, and there's habit trackers. There's a journal for every style, but it doesn't even have to be a journal. It could be a stack of, blank white paper, whatever. You'd be surprised at what comes out of you when you sit down and you just kind of clear it out. Might end up writing a letter that you're never going to send. But what I found was when I started journaling on a regular basis, I was able to clear out a lot of unnecessary nonsense and deal with some of the challenges that I was experiencing on a day-to-day basis with maybe coworkers by looking at it from my own words on a piece of paper And really looking at it and seeing what it was is completely unnecessary, a waste of time, not necessary to deal with or find a strategy in order to discuss that with other people. But it's important to nourish all of these components of who you are. Nourishment like reading and exercising, meditating, praying, journaling, that's all healthy practices. And it's not something that you need to incorporate as a wholesale. You don't need to pick them all up. But picking anything up that you don't do will inevitably cause a chain reaction and change for the better in your life, and definitely, in the people that you manage, the people that you lead. So when you're reading, there's a couple little tidbits. Remember that knowledge not applied is useless. So if you're reading something and you're not taking anything away from it, you're just filling your head with knowledge, which is nice. And I guess in some ways it's fulfilling. But really, the knowledge that exists is there to be implemented and is there to help. If you pick up a book and you find something in the book that makes sense, that you want to implement, I usually move that over to a journal, or I try and take notes in my book to definitely implement it from a standpoint of conversation. But if you're not using it, the reading of the book isn't serving you any purpose other than just keeping yourself busy. So apply what you can and integrate it into your life. So now, how do I create habits? Habits obviously help support the nourishment. It supports the things that I want to do. And the habits are literally the things that you do every day that help you get where you want to go. One of the key rules with starting habits is to start simple. Start simple. And start with a clear objective, a clear ideal of where you're trying to go. Question is, what are you trying to become, right? For me, I can honestly say that when I tried out for the Boku store, I wanted to be the Boku store candidate, USA. And that was back in 2015 when I was doing that. And, I had no idea what all I was going to entail when I was doing that, but I had a clear understanding of where I wanted to go. Maybe not a clear understanding of what I lacked in the process, but I definitely had a clear understanding of where I wanted to go. So, starting simple, it's important to remember that consistency is more important than moments of massive progress. And there's a really interesting story that I read very recently. It's from a book that was written in 1911, and it was written about an expedition race to the South Pole. So there were two teams, and the name of the book is called Great by Choice. So there were two teams of explorers, right? Amundsen and Scott, and the two of them were trying to get to the South Pole as quickly as humanly possible. And round trip from where they were, it was about 1,400 miles. There were two different strategies employed. One, Scott, their strategy was to walk as far as possible on the good weather days and then rest up on the bad weather days in order to conserve energy and to not make any progress, or to really just take the day and rest. Now, the other team, Amundsen, their team strictly adhered to the idea that they were going to travel 20 miles every day, no matter the weather. Good weather, awful weather, no matter what, they were traveling 20 miles. So if it was 20 miles in good weather, it was a very enjoyable 20-mile walk, and then they had a good day of rest. If it was 20 miles in awful weather, well, they only had to travel 20 miles that day, and then they were going to be where they were aiming to be. So at the end of the race, there was one team that obviously succeeded dramatically over the other team. And that was the second group. That was the group that did 20 miles a day. They progressed every day at the same rate. The other group was, I think, had traveled half the distance of the second group in order to get there. And that really is a great example of consistency and how consistency can really positively impact anything, the work you do, the habits you have. And what's most important with forming a simple habit is not making it so extravagant. It's like the difference of trying to do 2 miles on the treadmill 2 or 3 times a week, when it would actually be more beneficial to do a half mile every day on the treadmill. That's better for your body, and it's something that's going to help you build consistency, and it's something that's going to help you build that habit. And you're going to, in the end, run the same distance or jog or walk, whatever that is, but you're going to have that encouragement, that consistency, that regularity on a day-to-day basis. And it really will start to make more sense the more you do it. You need to know, or you need to ask what the first step is. And don't really take lightly the first step of things. It makes a big difference, the first step, when it comes to reading a book. If there's a book you want to read, buy the book. If you have the book and you haven't started reading the book yet, put the book on the table next to your bed, or put the book in a location where you're likely to read it. And that first step will make you more likely, it will encourage the opportunity for you to start executing that habit, or for you to execute that habit and make it easier. When I first started working with a trainer, and this is going back 6-7 years ago, he used to say, put your shoes under your bed and have your workout clothes directly on your shoes. So as soon as you get out of bed in the morning, you change and you get into your gear. And it's something that makes the whole process that much easier. You're not thinking about getting ready to go to the gym. It just happens. Like, your brain's like, oh, okay, well, this is what we're supposed to do, so let's go do it, regardless of thinking about how much it might suck. Right? And then take that step. And every time you take another step, recognize that you are strengthening that habit. You are making that habit more of a reality and more of who you are. It takes at least 21 days to make a really decent habit. And I would say it takes probably 90 days in order to solidify a habit into something that you can work with, into something that will automatically take place. Next, create your target. So I talked a little bit about this earlier. Create your target for where you want to go, what you want to be, what you want to create, or whatever progress you want to make. That's really what's important. Is if you start off with a target and you know what you want to land on, you know what you're aiming for, you're much more likely to hit it. So when it comes to, working on big targets, big projects, it's probably necessary to, break it down over the course of the year. Most people put something on a calendar, or they put out there a project or a date. Okay, so get it on the calendar, and then recognize how much time you have, recognize what it is you're trying to go for. Most New Year's resolutions end very, very quickly because, well, the habit hasn't been developed. The resolution's there, the desire for what it creates is there, but there's no habit, there's no goal at the end, or there's no real plan for how to get there. So setting a monthly goal, or setting a month and a date with a goal, is probably going to be your best way to go about it. And then schedule your priority. Start with one. Start small. Like I said, start with one small priority, pick a date, and put it on the calendar. And I can, talk for days about this when it comes to competitions, or when it comes to exams, or when it comes to projects or dinners, or even objectives from a business standpoint. Schedule your priority and make sure that it's on the calendar as a priority. Don't prioritize your schedule, schedule your priority. From there, you're going to take the same approach on a weekly basis as well as a daily basis. And eliminate the fluff. Take away the unnecessary stuff that is in your calendar that's not really serving you. There's a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day that actually don't complete or don't help us go in the direction that we want to go in. I'm sure we all get that. I'm sure every single one on the call gets that little screen time report on Sundays. And you see that you spend an average of, 1 to 3 hours of social media a day. That's a fair amount of time. And there's a lot that can be done within that fair amount of time that you can utilize and turn it into something useful. Then test your actions, test your commitments for your monthly goal, right? And then do it monthly. So this ties back to the fluff question, right? Everything you do, you should be able to ask and answer the question, do these actions produce results? Produce results that benefit you? Speaking for myself, I know that I like to exercise in the evening. Actually, in the evening is the best time for my body and my favorite time to exercise. But I recognize that forces me to stay up later. Usually what it would end up happening is I would get off of work, then I'd go for a late night gym session, and then I'd come home and I'd stay up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And that really is self-defeating when I was desperately in need of a full night's sleep. So stepping back and looking if I was really getting the results that I needed, one, I was doing a poor job at the gym because I was exhausted. And two, I didn't like what it was doing to my sleep schedule or my mornings or the time that I had to spend in my life with other priorities. So stepping back, really looking at what's going on in your life and recognizing what works and what doesn't, it's going to help you figure out what the fluff is and what you can eliminate. So now your weekly goals come from your monthly goals. And I'm sure everybody in a food service operation is familiar with, breaking down certain tasks. But when it comes to doing the same with our lives, I think a lot of us neglect that. I know for me, I can definitely say that I did. It took me a long time to recognize that my life in the kitchen really wasn't all that different than my life outside of the kitchen, quite honestly, because I was spending 12 to 14 hours a day doing my life in the kitchen. We don't have time to be two different people. So you can actually utilize that and be better in all areas of your life when you recognize that the same systems and the same work that you do on the day-to-day in your job and in your role as a chef or in your role as a professional culinarian, you can tie that into your life and into your life at home, into your life in your side business, or into your life in your other projects, right? So now from that monthly calendar, break down those segments that need to get completed in order to complete that bigger task into weekly bites, right? And it seems so obvious, but at the same time, I know that it's sometimes what's obvious that we most miss. And if you take the work of, say, you want to read a book next month, if you take the work and you break that book down into 4 parts, and then you decide that you're going to complete that 1 quarter every week in a month, you have a progress report and you can track your progressive improvement through that project. You can also take that and you can know if you're meeting your target or if you're not. You can track if you set out to read 120 pages this week and you didn't, or you did, and then you ended up reading more. It allows you a baseline for improvement. That weekly calendar is then going to tie into your daily calendar. The same topic, or the same way that applies to how you're applying the week to, or the month to the week, applies to your daily. So if you understand that you need to read 100 pages over the course of the week, you can break that down into a daily chunk. What do you need to get done every day in order to meet your goal of 100 pages this week? So if it's, if you're reading for 5 days, okay, that's 20 pages. If you're reading for all 7 days, what's that? It's 14 pages a day. It's a way to break down and have a daily target for each project you want to get done. And then schedule that time. Like I said earlier, schedule your priorities. Schedule that time into your day. If reading is a habit you want to pick up, find a time, schedule the time, and then integrate that habit. And at first, it's going to be awful and it's going to be as annoying as humanly possible, but you can truly integrate any habit by following those principles. Now focus on the project that you're trying to get done, or the addition that you're trying to make to your life, and schedule help if you need it. Or, if you're trying to find your way through a project, or if you recognize that you're not making the progress that you want on something, find someone who can help you and schedule that help. Look the week ahead. And, if you have 4 weeks to complete a project and your first week, you're not making the progress that you want to make, you can recognize that the second week you're going to need help. You're going to need to integrate some different approach in order to be successful. Create your daily checklist and, schedule the things that you need to schedule. Schedule the priorities. I can't even possibly explain how many times the earlier version of me missed important events, or forgot to leave early for work when I was supposed to, or, forgot to pick something up from the store before the store closed. And quite honestly, it was really because I never scheduled it. I didn't take the step that I needed in order to take responsibility to execute what I needed to do. Highly recommend 3 major objectives a day, especially in the beginning when you're trying to implement new habits. Don't try and do more than 3. It's really, really challenging, especially with life going on outside of those 3 objectives. All right. So Darren Hardy, he says you should track every action that pertains to the area where you want to see improvement. And that ties perfectly into journaling. If you can track it, you can improve it. This is where habit integration kind of becomes an actual trackable, improvable thing. If you're taking notes and you're tracking what you're doing, or just like with weightlifting, if you track what you did, you can track progress and you can track and see if you're making headway where you want to be, or if you're not. And you can hold yourself accountable based on that. Any questions so far? Just give a quick second for the chat. "30 seconds. Okay. All right. Who's that? That's Kirsten. You're welcome. My pleasure. All right, off we go. So I mentioned in the outline that went around that I spend some time being grounded, and I spent a lot of time as a kid being grounded, but now in life that actually means something very different to me. Being grounded has a lot to do with the simple fact that I keep 2 feet on the ground, and I try not to get too far into my head, and I try not to get too high up into the clouds. And sometimes that's really hard to do, especially in the day and age that we're in, and especially with the insanity that's occurring in the world on most days, unpredictability and all of the nonsense that takes place. It becomes ever more important, the more people that rely on you, for you to stay grounded in who you are, right? For me, there's some things that I do. One, I really try to get out in nature as much as humanly possible. Water is very nourishing to me. And it may be for 30 seconds a week. Um, it may be for a day, a month. It may be for a weekend every 6 or 8 months. I don't know. But I know that just being able to get out is very nourishing, very grounding for me. It allows me to clear away the nonsense in my head and in my life and get back to what I think is important. And I think the objects that help ground me, or the situations, the scenes, the things that keep me grounded, are things that are obviously very important to me. And be it out in nature, or be it cooking comfort food. I mean, I'm a chef. I love what I do, and I come from a great family of tradition. Um, After a bad day, or after a really challenging day, after a stupid mistake or a giant failure, um, you know, a way to get back to who I am is to really cook the way that makes me feel good, the way that brings me back to who I am and reminds me why I started cooking. Being organized in the kitchen or being organized for a competition is very, very grounding for me. Um, when it comes to competing, or when it comes to taking an exam, it's very easy to get stuck in your head and get in your own way and create a ton of obstacles for yourself that are not in any way, shape, or form going to help you. But I get out in front of that now, at least by understanding my shortcomings, to say, okay, this is how I can set myself up and know that at least I have my material and I'm not going to be scampering around for what I need. Very grounding activity for me. And then I've got a crew of strong men that are friends, that are brothers, and we support each other in our endeavors. And they're my circle. They're the people that I talk to when I'm trying to figure out where I'm trying to go, or what's going to happen. And that's just who it is, and that's what I need. That's grounding for me. Sunsets, trees, palm trees, nice weather. You know, it is very important to be able to find your way back to where you are your strongest. And I think one of the first ways to get there is to start a do and do not list, right? Um, I can't help but think of Yoda saying, "There is no try, there is only do." Um, there's a very important list of things that you do to make you who you are. And I think that makes up the core of who I am. And that's all based on what my belief systems are built on. If it's morals, they're my values. So things that I make sure that I do. I exercise every day in some way, shape, or form. I eat healthy. Those are things that I do. Those are priorities. That's who makes me up. But the things that I don't do, the things that I will not do, are just as important. We live in a strange time. We live in a strange day and age. And, one of the things that I will not do, I will not have a meeting in my office alone with a female, period. I will not, do not. I do not stay out after midnight. Those are things that I do not do because they allow me to do what I want to do. They allow me to avoid nonsense, and they allow me to get on the right path. I do not argue with people online. That's something that I still work on from time to time, because I definitely have viewpoints and I disagree with things. But what is the real value that adds to my life? Most importantly, what is the value that it's taking away from my life by engaging in that unnecessary, pointless activity? Quote that's always stood out as profound to me is, "Show me what you do, and I'll tell you what you are." Things that you do define you more than your words ever will. One of the great law of laws from Ralph Waldo Emerson: you are responsible for your outcomes. That's something that I realized most people had never heard when I was working with my team, especially when I first moved to Georgia and I was working with my culinary staff, my sous chef included. Something that I came to understand is very important for me, but I always took for granted the fact that I thought that people understood that. But there's no one else that's responsible for your own happiness or for their own happiness. There's no one else responsible for setting up my garde cook station other than my garde cook. That's why I pay him. Unfortunately, he's or she has probably never heard that before, unless you told them, which is highly possible, unless you've told them a dozen times. But there's this viewpoint that somebody else is responsible for your happiness, and that's just not true. Somebody else is responsible for your success. That's just not true. The only person that is responsible for the outcome that you want is you. I think that one of the best ways to find my way to taking responsibility for my life is defining in a concrete way right and wrong. Without wrongness, you can't be right. And I used to get into, I'm going to call them heated debates. At a different time, I might have called them arguments with my human resources director at a club when I was in New York. And apparently it was offensive that I was telling people that they weren't doing their job the proper way. And it's bizarre to me that we live in a world where that's the case, but there's no way to express what needs to be done unless you express the parameters in which it would be wrong or improperly done. I think it's important that we find a way around and unlearn to be completely tolerant of mistakes, of errors, of really the behavior that isn't serving anybody well in the kitchen. Now, it's that whole idea that I think everybody learned in sexual harassment training, tacit approval. And when we tolerate, when we allow a behavior to happen without doing something about it, it's only going to strengthen that behavior. And that is exactly the wrong direction that we're going in. And I think for me, this is profound because for any chef, especially when I'm with them in a consulting role, if they don't explain what is unacceptable, then there's no real metric of success or performance. I think acting on values is a righteous act. Act on values, talk on values, work with your team based on values and teach people values. Doing so helps me stay grounded. I like to create a solid foundation. My solid foundation is built on my values, and it's something that everybody can find that is predictable. That's odd. I think it's important to to maintain an understanding perspective, but it's not acceptable to accept subpar work. It's not acceptable to accept subpar anything. If it's something that you're paying for, or if it's something that somebody's getting paid for, it's not benefiting anyone. And it's doing the exact opposite of helping people learn values and helping people increase their value. I think people forget that they're the example when they're the leader. But that's a great reminder to do the right thing. That's a great reminder to, stay disciplined and to remember that you are the example. And anything that you do, any improvement that you make will show in the people that are around you and the people that are paying attention to you. And then understanding your boundaries of right and wrong, it creates a predictable example that other people can know what they're going to expect when they approach you, how they can interact with you. If they know that you're going to listen to what they have to say and help people solve their problems, then they're going to likely be honest and open when something's going wrong. That's important. That's an important place to be, especially when it comes to developing, growing, and knowing what you may need to fix or the problem that you may need to solve in your operation or in your life. People need to be able to interact and and come to you and tell you when you're not doing something that you need to be doing. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So when it comes to implementing a habit or remaining grounded, or when it comes to building out a calendar or doing a project, it really helps to have somebody work with you. Somebody who ideally is at a good level to help work with you, somebody to help you stay accountable, and somebody who's gonna be there, when you need a nudge, somebody who you can nudge as well, and somebody who you can make mistakes with, and not think less of each other. It's important to remember that, the people that we have around us, the people that we work with are, really, really a great benefit to us. I look back in my career and I think about so many of the chefs that I worked with, or, so many of the cooks that I worked with that I picked up great skill from and really evolved my career in a great way. Remember, when you pick up a book, when you see something online, when you find a great idea, one idea implemented will change the trajectory of your life. Plain and simple. It's something that if you implement it and it becomes a part of your soul, it may take some time, it may take some doing, it may take some discipline, it may take falling off the horse or falling off the wagon and getting back on the wagon. But whatever it is, that one idea will definitely change the trajectory of your life. Doesn't matter what it is. And the more lives that you impact, the more it changes their lives for the better too. In order to encourage a little bit of progress, I think in the year ahead, I decided that I wanted to do, this is the first time I'm ever doing anything like this, but so I'm positive it will work, and I'm looking forward to seeing some cool results, but I've got a long 12-month, 12-book challenge. So I had this idea that over 12 months, I want to just put it out there and have people kind of building up their library and growing themselves. And this is kind of an encouragement, a nudge, call it a nudge, right? There's no prize, but actually, no, that's not true. You know what the prize is? The prize is personal growth. The prize is picking up skills and thoughts and techniques, and maybe picking up a habit that can have a really positive impact on you and the people in your lives. So my simple rules, not many, no fiction or fantasy. I'd like to stick to, I actually, business biographies, leadership, growth, anything that you think is going to benefit your life. And my very selfish reason for this is I'd like to know what you're reading, and maybe it's something that I should read. And I'll be doing this as well as you, and I'll be posting along. So starting Friday, February 16th, if you want to get involved, post your commitment on social, be it Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and just mention that you're getting into the 12-book, 12-month challenge, and then tag me, and then use the hashtag. Use this hashtag as it's written on the screen, actually. So MC Ford Book Challenge. And I just want to create my own hashtag, and I want to be like all the cool kids and have my own hashtag. But this way I can track it, and you can track it as well. If you search the hashtag MC Ford Book Challenge, you can see what everybody else is reading. And I'm going to introduce this onto social as well, just to create a little buzz and see what people are reading to stay up to date, or see what's out there. I'm always open for a new idea, or I'm always up there open for a change or a suggestion. And then within 30 days from the 16th, right? So the middle of the month, take a picture of the book, post it, and then just write a little short summary of an idea from the book that you're going to implement into your life or into your kitchen. I definitely think that that's a great way to start with this. So I'm sending you off with it for the start. And, I look forward to seeing everybody complete it. I look forward to seeing everybody grow through it. Growth is never found in the comfort zone. No matter what you do, no matter no matter how much you do things, or no matter how much you think you're used to, growth is never, and has never been, and will never be found in the comfort zone. So I want to thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining me on this webinar and spending the last hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes with me. We're going to open up questions here in a second, but I got a couple of things I want to go over with everybody. As a thank you gift for new clients, I'd really love to get on a 60-minute growth plan coaching call with you. It's something you can schedule with me through my link tree. I have it on all of my social media, and I would just love to connect with you. I'd love to talk about your goals and see if maybe we can, discuss some tools or some things that may be available to help. And I'd like to hear, where you're at, what you're doing, and see what's going on, see what the pulse is, where you're at, and hear about your challenges, and see if maybe there's a way we can work through those. I want to take a quick second and talk about the hybrid learning that is a component of Raising the Bar. It's called Raising the Bar Live. So for those of you who have heard about the class or who have seen something about the class, in the last session, or in the last enrollment, I introduced a component called Raising the Bar Live. And what that's all about is a hybrid learning program where I tie in a lesson from the dripped out module in the course and then customize it to the group that's on the call. So from the last group, we spent some time going through a platter. One of the students asked for a platter critique and agreed to have that platter critiqued with the group and have that shared with everybody else. And so I spent some time going through that for the benefit of everyone. And in some modules, it's all about talking about specifics, or maybe it's recording a separate process or procedure. Our final class, we spent some time talking about hydrocolloids, which will actually lead to deeper build out in the program. So this is all a community that I'm in the process of building. And as people join into the program and as people join into the community, it gets deeper and the resource gets broader, quite honestly. The course consists of 12 modules. It's 12 weeks long, live lessons, custom sessions. There's 130 lessons in total, quite a bit of material in there. And quite honestly, it just gets better and better. I keep adding lessons to it as we go. And then I record the live sessions for access for anybody who's already been on the call. So a total of 9 hours, a minimum of 9 hours of training video, but there's more going into it, obviously. And then each week is basically broken down into roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours of work. Some weeks are more coursework than others. There's handouts, attachments, sheets, spreadsheets, forms, downloadable templates that you can use and implement into your operation, because I fully believe that honestly, competition and pursuit of a certification, research, it's all, on the surface, it seems like it's just something to do. It's something to keep you busy. But I think it's absolutely pointless if you're not able to tie that into the work that's done every day in your kitchen or that's done with your team. It's, for me, my career has been spun in a great direction because of the time that I've spent training and preparing for competition. And I want that to be the case for everybody else. Quite honestly, a lot of the lessons that I teach are the result of having been trained or coached or worked towards a competition or towards a culinary Olympic team tryout, or things that I've picked up working towards the Master Chef exam that most chefs don't necessarily have access to. And unfortunately, wouldn't know it until it's, I don't want to say too late, but until it's a very inconvenient time to learn a lesson that makes you, basically bang your head against the table and say, damn it, I wish I knew that. That's the whole point of what I do with my YouTube videos and spending time and trying to teach lessons that will benefit. I want chefs to be able to be right where I'm at, because that's the only way we get better as an industry. That's the only way we work more effectively together, is by me passing off as much knowledge as I can so that everybody can take it and can grow from it. Professionals in my course, they're working towards the CMC exam. I have a coaching client and a student who, is working on Team USA tryouts for Team 2024. I worked with Chef earlier last year for CEC exam practicals, and the tools that are in the course are designed to be very useful, from the packing components to the traveling components, evolving flavor, details on writing menus, and high level chef information to evolve a career in the direction that you want to go. So I encourage you to schedule a call. You can reach out through email. You can reach out through my LinkedIn or through my Linktree, and I would just love to connect with you. Look forward to talking to you, and we can spend some time going through what you're looking for. So without further ado, let's open up the floor for some questions. So I'm gonna start with the questions in the chat. We've got a couple book recommendations, actually. Here, I'm going to grab another. There we go. So let's see. Khalil Gibran wrote The Prophet. Sounds like a really good book. I'll have to look into that. And my reading list is, I might end up trying to do a 52 book challenge this year. I don't know if that's even possible, but it's worth a try. And let's see, the Book of Mysteries by Jonathan Cain, and that's a pretty great book as well. So let's see here. All right. Anybody want to step to the plate and unmute your phone or unmute your microphone, and please feel free to. Oh, wow. Okay, hold on. Somebody did some typing. Sorry. Somebody's got some typing here. Let's see. Let's see. So Carson Jones. That's all right. That's a great point. I'm reading it. I'm reading a little slowly, but absolutely, it's all about implementation. And discipline is a key. You want to talk about this a little bit, Carson?
Yeah, sure. How's it going, Ted?
Let me turn up my volume here real quick. Sorry.
All right.
Go ahead.
So I'm just a humble grill chef working at the sporting club, Greenbrier County.
At the hotel.
At the sporting club, so a subdivision of the hotel.
Okay, gotcha.
I just know, most of this stuff is kind of oriented towards leads and executive chefs as they are. And I took away from it that just always trying to better yourself. And I get told this a lot at work too. There's times where no one's looking and you've had a long day and you just want to close the door and forget about it. But taking that extra step and organizing your station before you leave or ahead of time and just getting on top of things that day to day suck to do can just really help better yourself, and they become habitual. And it's always hard to keep dialing in and staying on top of it because I don't know, just stuff comes up and you get lazy sometimes. But I really like just always keeping an open mind and decluttering your mind when you're on the line or organizing and prepping for the day or the service that you're about to do. And I don't know, I just liked a lot of the stuff that you talked about.
Awesome. I would definitely, I guess there's just a recommendation I would make and say, like, I don't think there's ever a point when this information is over anyone's head. You know what I mean? Like I definitely, I tend to end up speaking to executive chefs, executive sous chefs, and sous chefs a lot. Like that's who I end up talking to. But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I think no matter what, the message is great for every level. And I think the earlier in your career you have it, the more you can implement those keys. And I really think in our industry we have a really hard time transitioning great cooks into great leaders and into great sous chefs. It's a hard transition to make, and it's a lot of what makes a sous chef is being a great cook, but a lot of what makes a great sous chef is learning how to be a leader and learning how to be a manager, and those two don't translate perfectly well together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always told you have to lead through the ranks. I mean, and everything just kind of falls into its place, especially with having this knowledge in an early stage. You can start implementing those practices and helping out your fellow chefs and people that you're working with to better them too. And then it all just kind of comes full circle.
Absolutely. The more effectively, I think the more effective you are as a leader, or the more effective you are in the role of leading, the better of a follower you can be. You know what I mean? Like if you understand your role as a leader, you understand your role as a follower a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can see both sides to it.
Absolutely. And you understand how to make your leader's job easier and better. And I'll tell you what, man, in my career, there's many times when that's opened up some really cool opportunities for me, is trying to, you know, not take, I never tried to take anything away from my sous chef. Well, earlier in my career, totally. Yeah, absolutely. But as I got a little bit older and a little more mature, I recognized the value of, working to make my team as effectively as possible to support my sous chef. And it's led me to, to be the first or second choice when a promotion came along.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, those things go both hand in hand. When you're either teaching or learning from someone, you can see both sides of it, and you can utilize those in a more effective way by growing someone to help them teach someone.
Mhm. Completely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for listening.
No, my pleasure. Good to meet you. Let's
Yeah, absolutely. You too, Chef.
see. Who's next? Let's see.
I have a question.
Who was that? I'm sorry. I've got a few names on the screen.
Gabriel.
Oh, Gabriel. Yeah, go ahead, Chef.
With many years of working in the industry and watching videos and watching you guys compete, is one of my goals is to at least try out for the USA team. But I know I'm not there yet. So, what is your advice for a young culinarian like me that has the dream to at least reach that goal? But I know I have the certification process that I have to go through. But my question is, what is your advice to me for me to reach those goals?
Well, I think it's a time frame question, right? The team and preparing for the team and putting yourself into a situation to be successful in the team requires some specific accomplishments, right? I really think that you probably, anybody who hasn't at least scored a silver on a cold platter is going to have a hard time making the team. Anybody who hasn't scored a gold in hot K comp is probably going to have a really hard time making the team. If you have good experience, that's going to help. If you work for somebody who has been or who is related to somebody who's been on the team, or you've spent some time in your career working with somebody who's mentored the team or been a coach, those are definitely going to encourage your chances. So, small steps, I would say, keep competing, keep competing, work towards, you don't have to work for it all at the same time. Work towards hitting a gold in a K-comp. And that may take you 6 months. It may take you a year and a half. It may take you 2 years, whatever it takes. That's, it is what it is. It takes however long it takes. Right. And then work on your cold food, work on a cold food and work on cold food and work on cold food. And, whenever you have a chance, put it out in front of people. One of the things that I think slows people down and gets people, keeps people from making progress is being afraid to fail. It sucks. And no matter what, when you're trying to do this, you're going to look like you don't know what you're doing at some point. You're going to look like a fool. You're going to hear it. But, the bright side of being where I'm at in my career and having been evaluated by so many is, the evaluators know where you're at. A good evaluator, a good judge is going to try and help you get to the next level. Gabriel, are you in Michigan? Did I lose you? Oh man. Oh, seems like you're on cellular data.
Chef, he's still there. Yeah, he's in Michigan. He's one of my former students.
Gotcha.
We still work together a little bit.
And so what I would say is, connect with, Chef Schellig, and he's a big competitor. You know what I mean? And he's right in your neck of the woods, and you already have a relationship with him. It's the earlier stages that go into preparing for something like the team. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fighting against the resistance and putting work up and, taking the critique. And there's a lot of strengthening of different tolerances, muscles, ability to deal with nonsense. There's a lot of skills that need to be acquired in order to be successful at the level of trying out for the team. And I think I lost him temporarily. But when he comes back, let's see. Anybody else want to hop in real quick? Well,
yeah, Chef, I got to hop out. I got to go teach a kids cooking class in a minute, but
awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks on a few accounts, right? I think it's really important to see you pushing us in the direction of, wholesomeness and being true to ourselves and encouraging, reading and exercise. When I came up through the ranks, it was how hard you could push, how hard you could stand up for yourself. And to have this angle to look at really enables me to go after the goals that, I'm after. And a lot of the goals that I'm pursuing currently and hopefully completing this year are the ones we spoke about on the call. So to see 14 participants here that I'm sure are in true belief of, find yourself, find your soul, encourage others to perform at a level of, professionalism and expertise that exude those things and not just, how quickly you can get up and how tough you can go and that kind of thing. A lot of times we're on calls about, how are you thickening sauces now? Are you using xanthan gum? Are you still using flour? Are you putting soy sauce on roasted chicken? And now we're on calls talking about how to improve your mind, how to improve your body to come off as a true professional. And it's really encouraging to see this many people on the call. And it's really encouraging to see yourself develop a business on this format. I followed your career, always been very impressed, but even more impressed with, the following that you're producing here, and I'm going to try my best to improve my personal situation in order to make my team better. It's really about finding them a chance to not just be on the line and grilling every night, but maybe they spend an hour a day pursuing a certification or a competition. And that's really where I want to push my team. So, all your information comes at a very important time for me. So for that, I say thank you. And, I thank the other 14 people on the call for, being in on the same input because it has to start somewhere. And it looks like we're really pushing the right limits here in the industry. So like you said in the beginning, hospitality is very crucial right now. We've all had to pivot and be very, have our head on a swivel all year, and it's really going to show where we come out on the end of this. And I'm really excited to see how it comes out. So I thank you for your perspectives. I thank you for your content. I'm going to make very good use of it. So again, Chef, I appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, everyone else too. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chef.
Yeah.
So let's see. Chef Gabriel, I see you're back.
Yes, I'm here.
Cool. Gotcha. Sorry. Yeah, I know. I realized we got cut off, so I figured I'd come back. So what was the last thing you heard me say?
It's all right, Chef. I'm just listening, and I'm very just glad to at least catch this webinar. So I appreciate it, Chef.
Thank you. Really, the key is just take a step. You know what I mean? And just keep walking in the direction. It's in the beginning, it's hard to see how it all comes together. But if you're walking down that path and you know what that goal is, you'll find your way there. And it's just know, and I'll tell you this from my own personal experience, it is a very uncomfortable growing process. But it's incredible.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Who would like to step up next?
I want to say I
Hi,
like.
Chef.
Sorry.
So-
Go ahead.
Is that Chef Melinda?
It is. Is my name not showing?
Honestly, I haven't paid much attention because it distracts me significantly. But
That's okay. Well, there's a whole bunch of Carol Ann's up there, and I was able to change my name in a box that I could unmute. So whatever that means. But
okay.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Anyway, happy New Year to everybody, and happy Feast of the Epiphany tomorrow, January 6th, and other exciting things happening tomorrow as well. I just wanted to say one thing, other than thank you again, Chef, for all this wonderful information. And, I'm taking copious notes, of course. But one thing that we said was one idea implemented will change the trajectory of your life. And so for me, that was in 2018 at the ACF National Convention in Florida. And I didn't even know that certified master chefs existed in ACF. And there you guys were on a panel, and that really piqued my curiosity, passion, whatever. And when I asked a question if there was women CMCs, and the answer was no, that, of course, got me super excited. So since 2018, I guess, my idea is that I would like to become a C candidate and be welcome to the exam here in the future. And, I am actively taking steps to do that. And I just want to thank you and the other chefs that I've, come in contact with, met. Chef Schellig as well is a huge influence in terms of the competition side of training and all that, because I'd never done that before. Just February of last year, and I went to Michigan to do that. So, all things, these things are possible, and with just a lot of hard work and dedication and organization. And, Chef, you and I have spoken about it, some of my goals recently, and so that's kind of where I stand with this, and I'm just wanted to share that with you all. So thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you, and I always enjoy your contributions. So thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
Chef Schellig, I think you were about to say something, weren't you?
No, I was just talking for you had asked Gabriel if he was from Michigan. I was just letting you know that he's one of my homies.
Gotcha. Let's move around the room a little bit. Derek Anderson.
How you doing, Chef?
I'm excellent. How about yourself?
I'm great.
Any,
I thank you for that great meeting and a lot of valuable tips that you gave out.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Any questions I can answer for you?
Just the easiest way of creating them habits found that pretty interesting. So you were saying just make it start doing what you start doing with the habits that you just want to create. Just keep doing them. That was just like great info. So I guess it's not a question, but that's what I really picked up on.
Well, good. Well, I mean, I definitely prefer for my presentations to produce output, right? I like for people to be able to take things that they can integrate. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
How was your Christmas? Hope all is well. New Year's and all that.
Thank you. Well, all the best for 21 for you as well, Chef. Thank you. Christmas is good.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Jasmine Fisher.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I see Jasmine Fisher, but hello.
Sorry, guys, I'm at work right now, so I'm just listening in.
Gotcha. Well, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here.
For sure. Thanks for having me. Matt invited me in.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad you joined us. And let's see. Who haven't I heard from? Let's April Johnson.
Hey, Chef, how are you?
Excellent. How are you, Chef?
I'm good, yeah.
Happy New Year, young chef.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed listening to this and everything. It's been really good. And I don't know, I just kind of like the conversation where we were talking about like, I don't know, I guess the biggest thing I've realized recently is that age doesn't really matter when it comes to this. It comes to like passion and being able to like have the drive to want to reach your goals and everything, because that's something I kind of experienced just from like taking your competition course and everything. And then when we'd be doing the Zoom calls and realizing that I was like one of the youngest people in your competition class, like not necessarily having the experience about like the same experience as everybody else. But I don't know, I've just realized that it's always a good thing to put yourself in a room with people who know more than you, who can give you tips and everything, because that's just like a way that I've been able to learn the most over the past few years, is just like talking to other chefs, see what works for them, see what doesn't work for them. And so that's just been like an amazing opportunity from being able to be in your course and everything. But yeah.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, the age really doesn't really matter.
No.
The most significant thing, and I think that the hardest thing that's to explain and to express in the industry, is that there are aspects of it that require repetition and the developing of a craft. There's no way to rush that. That takes years of practice. But the attitude, the maturity, the leadership, the knowledge, the understanding, that's not really age related. And I think if you have those understandings at a younger age, you can apply them better and actually be a better craftsman by the end of it, or later on in your career. So no, it's always a pleasure to see your name.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for speaking up, Chef. Let's see, Chef Oltz, are you still with us? Or Chef James? I really don't want to butcher your name.
Kokanyezdi.
Kokanyezdi. Oh, okay, gotcha.
He's Coke and Pepsi in Michigan. We call him Coke and Pepsi.
And he is he's the president of the MCC, right? MCCA?
Hey, yep.
Hey.
How are you doing, Chef? I just got logged in late, probably the last 10 minutes, so I didn't get to hear it. So hopefully it's available later, or we'll talk about it soon.
It will be available. Absolutely. I'll put it up on YouTube within a couple of days. So welcome. You got any questions? Anything I can answer for you?
No, it's just great to see you guys out there helping us out during these difficult times. I know that you're working with Matt, and hopefully I'm sure hearing from you some more soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, we went over some highlights for Monday's presentation, and it'll be good. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks for being here, Chef. Happy New Year.
You too. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you. All right. Well, I suspect if have I heard from everybody? I don't want to leave anybody out. Let's see. Melinda, Matt. Let's see. I spoke with Derek. I did speak with Derek. Good to hear from Derek. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all very much for your time and say, if there's any conversation you want to have further, I definitely encourage you to reach out, connect with me. Happy to do so. It really doesn't matter where you're at in your career. I'm happy to talk to you. So please, I encourage you to, utilize that hour conversation, and we can talk about all sorts of stuff. So thank you very much for being here one more time. I look forward to seeing where everybody goes. I look forward to hearing from everybody. And I wish you all a happy new year and do something great with the year.
Thank
What
you,
needs
Chef.
it. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening,
Happy
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank
Ciao.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.